The workers, the unions might have the upper hand in this type of environment. Wells Fargo was out with a note saying that the expiring UAW contract on September 14th is the most imminent risk to GM and Ford, calling the demands audacious and really raising that risk of a strike.
That's why when I look at a quarter knee-jerk reactions of some of these quarters in tech, I view that as just table stakes relative to where I see these names going over the next 12, 18, 24 months.
Now we've got a story that is almost too crazy to believe, but it's true.
Well, Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg. Yes, we are talking about the summer rivalry that has reached its next level.
All that and more, so let's get to it. Tesla stock down in the after hours, sitting at 241.80. For the week, Tesla is down almost 6%. For the past 30 days, down over 11.5%. Going back a year, Tesla is down almost 16.5%. Now my options activity has been spotty at best, and your boy is finna go against the grain. Within the next month or so, I have 2 call options that are set to expire, and I'll be doubling down with more call options leading up to those points. While there's been somewhat of a tech pullback, I feel that the turning point is now to continue that bull market that we've seen earlier this year.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the individual movers of the day. And first up, we got to start with GM and Ford, both under pressure amid labor contract negotiations with the United Auto Workers. As the September expiration date for the contracts approaches, fears of a strike are beginning to creep in. We saw that reflected not only today, but really the weekly moves that we saw in both stocks here at Kiko. And I think the thought process is, at least the thinking along the lines of some of the analysts out there, is that the workers, the unions might have the upper hand in this type of environment. Wells Fargo was out with a note saying that the expiring UAW contract on September 14th is the most imminent risk to GM and Ford, calling the demands audacious and really raising that risk of a strike.
Yeah, I mean, there's twofold, right, Shauna? On the one hand, there's a risk of a strike and how much that would cost to, the car makers if there is a work stoppage. There's also the realization that if they do reach some kind of contract, that's going to mean higher expenses for these companies. You had that number out from Bloomberg this week saying that it would add more than $80 billion in expenses for each one of these American car companies when you consider what exactly the UAW is asking for right now in their contracts. And you don't need to look further than UPS to understand where those higher costs are going to come from. They averted a strike, and yet they had expenses go up significantly as a result of the higher wages, more benefits, all that. So it feels like when you look at these car makers, there's a bit of a lose-lose situation, but certainly investors not looking for a strike here, but either way, looking at higher costs as a result of these negotiations.
Yeah, that's bad. Any way you slice that, not good for Ford and GM. You give the UAW what they want, your costs go through the roof. What do you do to mitigate that? Probably raise your prices and pass those costs on to the consumer. So one of 2 things is finna happen. One, there'll be less production of everything. Internal combustion engine, electric vehicles. The strike would take no prisoners. The scarcity of their vehicles would then push the consumer to other brands. Or 2, you give the UAW what they want. You're forced to pass on those new labor costs on to the consumer, and the consumer goes in another direction anyway. The next couple of months is gonna be like going through hell with gasoline draws on. For Ford and GM, it's gonna get hotter after summer.
Rally, right? Most of the year, losing a little bit of steam over the last week or so. Datadog, Supermicro, Nvidia, they're all among this week's worst performers. Even Apple has been dropping lately, but your next guest expects any pullback like this one to be short-lived, and he is reiterating his bullish call for a much as 15% gain for tech, just macro tech, I guess, before the end of the year. Let's bring in Wedbush's Dan Ives. Dan, is that a macro tech call?
Not really. I mean, to us, what we're seeing from enterprise spend, I think in terms of where we see guidance, and I think the AI revolution, the 4th industrial revolution, is now taking hold. And we believe this is just halftime of a new tech bull market underway.
Who's going to drive it? Because stocks go up when there's more buyers than sellers.
So I think big tech ultimately is driving. I mean, if I look from a cloud perspective, we've seen upticks from this earnings season, from Microsoft, of course, to Amazon with the flex the muscles quarter, Google, And what we see going to the second half, I mean, we believe ultimately spending could increase 400 or 500 bips on the cloud. And that ultimately is going to be driven from what we're seeing on AI, and that's going to drive cybersecurity. It's going to drive broader enterprise. And I think many investors here are not positioned well, where we believe going in 2024, we see tech stocks up another 20% from these levels.
I'm in agreement with Dan Ives here. I don't know when the pullback will cease, but I have a feeling what we're seeing is just investors taking the profits while they're still there.
Minutes ago, Dan, if you did, I'll just reiterate what you said for the viewers that maybe you didn't either. It's Fortinet, right? FTNT, is a cybersecurity company, got crushed. Fell like 20% last week. If cybersecurity, Palantir, I know a name that you cover and like. If this is the future, and we know what a threat cyber is, why are they selling at the drop of a hat with a number that slightly misses?
Because I think right now there's nervousness, right? Not just in terms of Fed backdrop, but in terms of maybe how some of these names have run, and you're not yet seeing that parabolic growth. But ultimately, when I look at Fortinet, that's a table pounder. I look at Palantir, another table pounder. Microsoft continues to be our top pick, and I think the best tech name out there is Apple, where I think we sit here a year from now, we're looking at a $3.5 trillion market cap. iPhone 15, we think is going to be a mini super cycle. And I think that right now is just the sentiment, glass half, when I say glass half empty relative to tech, but I just believe this is just get out the popcorn moment to what I view as a massive second half rally for tech stocks.
And you still love a Rivian, RIVN, the electric truck and SUV maker.
I mean, look, to me, they are a core EV player. I mean, you've talked about a bunch, and when I look at what Tesla is doing, you look at what Rivian, there's going to be many winners, and I think what Rivian's now finally turned the corner. From a supply chain, demand looks strong, and this green tidal wave is playing out. And that's why I just continue to take a step back here. It's a 1995 moment, not a 1999, 2000 moment. Internet, 1995, I think it's the biggest transformational tech trend we've seen in 30 years, which is why I view this as a bright green light to own tech, despite many yelling fire in a crowded theater.
It does feel like artificial intelligence, AI, is maybe could be the biggest transformational thing, maybe perhaps, and tell me if this is hyperbole, since basically the creation of, say, the World Wide Web. I mean, is a way that we change the way we worked, right? You had the internet, of course, dial-up modems, things like that. The web comes out, AOL makes it accessible, Netscape. It feels like a Netscape kind of moment in a way, if that makes any sense.
Brian, I mean, it is. And I think that's why it's a 1995 moment, not 1999, 2000. We're talking about incrementally $1 trillion of incremental spend next decade. That's why when I look at a quarter, knee-jerk reactions of some of these quarters in tech, I view that as just table stakes relative to where I see these names going over the next 12, 18, 24 months. And that's why we're hand-holding our clients through this, because I view this as more of an opportunity, not the time to hit the elevator.
Dan makes some very fine points. People are taking the money off the table right now. Keep your eye on the prize. 12, 18, 24 months from now, in all of these earnings calls, increased spending on tech is the common denominator. Those that are able to capitalize on the benefits of artificial intelligence will reap the spoils. And good luck wrenching control from that company's hands.
We've got a story that is almost too crazy to believe, but it's true. Okay, back in December, our CNBC colleagues, actually the head of digital here, Jay Yarrow, wrecked his Tesla, ended up totaling the vehicle. He was unharmed, as I understand it.
Let's just gloss over the totaled car, owner not harmed. Tesla, the safest vehicles on the planet.
See it there, was sent to a junkyard in New Jersey, and Jay figured his trusty Tesla would, just go to that great scrapyard in the sky. But oh no, listen to this. This week, Jay heard from his car again. That's right. He got a notice on his phone that his Tesla was suddenly back online. Tesla lets you see where the car is, kind of like the Find My iPhone feature. So, curious, he looked, and he saw that his Tesla was now in Ukraine. Yes, Ukraine, because, of course, Ukraine. Not only that, but whomever now has the car was also listening to Drake on Jay's still logged in Spotify account. It's a bonkers story, but it's also an important lesson, because it's possible the new car owners may have access to things like Jay's contact list or other personal information stored in the car's computer. In other words, the car itself may actually be a security risk. Let's talk now more about it. Joining us is now CNBC.com tech reporter who broke the story all the way from Jay Yarrow's mouth, Laura Kolodny, an automotive cybersecurity veteran and the founder of RightHook, Warren Honor. Laura, I'd say, listen, this is our colleague Jay. We can laugh about it because he's fine. But this is an insane story. Do we have any idea how the car ended up in Ukraine in the first place?
So when a car is totaled and it goes to a salvage yard like that, in other countries, the car might have more value than it would here. So you'll encounter these teams that like buy the wreck and then rehabilitate the car, or maybe just the car computer and use it overseas.
Yeah, and there's got to be, Warren, there's got to be a lesson here. And we're kind of making light of it. But, you know, I get into rental cars. I'm sure we've all done this. And you attach your phone, and there's like 8 previous renters had just left their stuff stored in the computer. You know, I always try to delete the connection if I have one on Bluetooth. What's the security risk and what's the security lesson?
So the risk is, as you've alluded to, leaving breadcrumbs of your personal life in that rental car. And I think the minimal data sharing required to get done what you want to do is the right approach. So when you pair your phone with a rental car, it's important as those screens pop up and it asks you, do you want to sync your favorites? Do you want to sync your contacts? Do you want to sync locations?
No.
Say no to everything.
Yeah. Say no to everything. What, by the way, hopefully Jay's watching. What is his risk, Warren? Is there anything he can do now?
You know, I don't know what all applications he had signed in. So, I mean, could be individual risks with those applications. And if that's the case, he really needs to reach out to the application or service provider. So, I mean, Spotify's, you know, his worst case is Discovered Weekly is going to be messed up. But if he had some other important applications in there, like home automation, this person could sign into and open a smart garage door from Ukraine or unlock the front door of the house. It all depends on what all was connected to the car at the time.
It's like somebody just playing around with the garage door opener in Ukraine, and Jay's garage door here in New Jersey is going up and down.
When it comes to the cybersecurity, because it's a computer on wheels, whenever you're not going to own your car anymore, you just return it back to factory settings. That's an easy fix, right? Say you're buying a used Tesla. You might want to do the same things because just like the guy in Ukraine who has the Tesla, all the doors open, listening to that Drake album, or it looked like Kanye, whatever it was, you want to sever that connection yourself, I'm sure. Factory set your car. Now, obviously, Jay here totaled his car, probably was the furthest thing from his mind, but I'm pretty sure it's on his mind now. So take note, especially if you're trading in your Tesla, upgrading, if you know what I mean. Cybertruck around the corner. Factory set your previous Teslas. And those of you that hopping in rental cars, use your common sense.
You know, the interesting thing to me, Laura, and this is probably a little bit off topic, is the car was totaled, but yet somebody found enough value in it to send it across the ocean. I find that to be bizarre.
It's actually a growing industry with online auctions. This has just become incredibly common. And now 4 out of 5 cars that are sold in the US actually have some personal data on them when they're resold, whether it's as a used car, you know, like a trade-in, or from salvage like this. So dealerships, owners, we all need to be more vigilant.
Yeah, and I wonder if they fixed it up enough that they're driving it around. Glad Jay's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Well, Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg. Yes, we are talking about the summer rivalry that has reached its next level. Musk tweeting this morning that he spoke to the Prime Minister of Italy and the Minister of Culture to hold the brawl between these executives in Italy. Musk says the event would be live streamed on Meta and X, of course. Mark Zuckerberg responded with a post on Threads saying he's ready to go whenever Elon is ready. Shauna, am I the only one that thinks this is just an unnecessary sideshow?
Oh, no.
I mean, we're talking
right.
about it, right? We're talking about it.
And we've been talking about it now for what, 2 months? When did he first announce it? Back in June, I think it was? Maybe earlier this summer, it's fair to say. They're just trying to drum up some excitement. I think Musk is doing all he can to get now Twitter, now X, at the forefront in conversations, using this as a publicity stunt. I'm with you. I think there's about a 1% chance that this happens in general, probably less than that.
Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk. Is this going to happen? I give it a 25% shot, depending on the health of Elon Musk. Let's just remember that the man is not a spring chicken, but Elon never shies away from things that are considered impossible.
Social media on X speculating, I guess, who's going to win this fight if in fact we do see it. I've got Zuckerberg if it comes down to that.
I am with you. I'm with you. He trains regularly, I think, right? I don't know. I follow him on Instagram. He's posted photos of him training. I would put my money on Mark Zuckerberg, but at the end of the day, I think these two have enough to worry about.
Don't bet against Elon.
I think they would both fold in 5 seconds. I feel like Mark would bring some moves, but in the end, Elon would beat him.
It may be wise to have some sort of contingency plan.
I'll take Elon.
No need to rush, you know. Look, what's the hurry?
Definitely Mark Zuckerberg. He seems like someone who would go a little crazy and beat Elon Musk up, and Elon Musk is like all talk. It'd be embarrassing for him, I think.
I think that's gotta be true.
I think Mark may have the skills.
I do think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
I'll put my money on Elon though, because I feel like he's a little crazier.
Oh, wait a second. That's the exact opposite.
People say that Mark Zuckerberg actually does like some form of martial arts.
I like jujitsu. I also really like MMA. We have like a mini academy in my garage.
So I guess my money's on him.
It's awesome. I got like a ton of my friends into it.
I don't care.
I don't know. I think Elon Musk probably.
You know, hopefully this can serve as an inspiration for excitement about the future.
I think if they both managed to kill each other, the world would win.
But Elon, with a sheer size advantage, is probably the favorite. Not by much, mind you, considering the age gap, but Elon wins this, hands down. He's too big to fail. In conclusion, Jim Farley, Mary Barra, sleepless nights abound. The UAW ain't around. No surprise that Dan Ives thinks that there will be a tech rally here coming shortly. For better or worse, I'm in the same camp as well, putting my money where my mouth is. When upgrading your Tesla to the Cybertruck or what have you, make sure you return your Tesla back to its factory settings before relinquishing control. Make sure you continue to keep yourself and your loved ones safe and sound. And let me know in the comments below, who do you think wins in a Coliseum grudge match? Tesla, Elon Musk versus Meta's Mark Zuckerberg. Let's get it on! Well, that's all I got for you today. Be easy. Peace.